Hello folks, Tiso here. I want to let you know that I finally have my own Discord server, so come hang out and chat. The link is in the description below. Also, this Sayu guide is going to be a little different. I'll be speeding things up to keep this short and simple. Still full of useful info, just more condensed. I'll start with her abilities. I already have another video showing a bunch of unique non-combat tricks she can do, so I won't go over those again. Here I will focus more on the combat related stuff. Starting off with her normal attacks. It's normal. It's pretty much what you expected. You won't really use her normal and charge attacks outside of farming minerals unless you are building the very rare main DPS Sayu. Next up, her elemental skill. This is what Sayu is known for. If you just tap the skill, you will do her kick without rolling. If you hold it for about 1 second or longer, she will continue to roll until you push her skill again or 10 seconds have passed. Once the roll starts, you can let go of the ability and freely move and turn, which makes this skill very fun to use. This roll also does not consume any stamina. If you end the roll by pushing the elemental skill again or 10 seconds have passed, she will do her kick. You can also cancel the roll with a jump or a dash. If you cancel the roll, she will not do her kick, which is better for traversal since you don't waste time with the animation lock. An easy way to utilize her roll is to use the 4-piece Vanilla set. Just apply an element on the enemy, then use her elemental skill. If you hold down her skill longer to start rolling, she will gain an extra energy particle when she hits an enemy. So in combat, you want to hold her skill long enough to start the roll and then push E again to do the kick. This will give you the most energy particles. I also want to talk a little more about 2 weapons for her, the Favonius and Sacrificial Greatsword. Favonius has a chance to generate energy particles when you crit on any damaging ability. This means every damage instance from her roll has a chance of proccing this passive as expected. But for the Sacrificial Greatsword, even though the description says a chance to reset her elemental skill on hit, the damage from rolling does not count. You will have to hit the enemies with her kick to reset the cooldown. If you are using this weapon, make sure to land a kick. Notice my elemental skill is still on cooldown even though after hitting so many enemies with a roll. However, when I land a kick, it resets. You can also try to synergize her roll with Shangling's burst by rolling counterclockwise to the enemy. The Pyronado has a slight cooldown between hits, but this trick lets you get a couple more hits in total. Rolling clockwise can increase your damage on the rare occasion that you can stick the Pyronado on an enemy, but most of the time you'll be losing hits. Now for a speed test. Is Sayu's roll faster than sprinting? Will it stack with Anemo Resonance and other move speed bonuses? Does she get dizzy from rolling too long? The answer is yes for all those questions. Look at the comparison here. Her default roll is now the new fastest land traveling speed, not counting teleports, and it does even better in long distance since you don't drain her stamina. We can see that the Anemo Resonance and Rosaria's passive both stack with Sayu's roll, and bunny hopping with a tall male character is about as good as Mona and Ayaka's dash. Do note that Ayaka and Mona's dash is still faster than regular sprinting. As for the dizzy question, she only gets dizzy when you let the animation play after rolling. If you do the tap version, she just does a stretch instead. As a side note, you can also move her burst around after placing it on the ground. This isn't really helpful in combat since you'll be attacking the enemies instead. Maybe this feature can be used in co-op, where you move the burst away from your teammate to stop them from healing. Sayu will need crystal marrows to ascend, and here are all the locations in Inazuma. There are 66 of them as of version 2.0. I also have a video showing the routes for each one. Now for her talent priority. It's pretty easy this time around. You want to level her elemental burst first since it does more healing and more damage as you level it. And then second, you want to level her elemental skill since it will increase the damage. Don't bother leveling her normal attack unless you want to treat her as a main DPS. She isn't really suited for a main DPS role, but nobody's stopping you. You can have her swing the little claymore all you want. Now let's look at her constellations. Her constellation 1 is extremely good. It's just like Bennett. This constellation will let her ignore the HP limit so she can attack and heal at the same time. If we go and look back at her elemental burst, we see that when your ally is above 70% health, her burst will do damage. However, if they're below 70%, they'll heal. But with this Constellation 1, she'll be healing and damaging at the same time. Her Constellation 2 makes her elemental skill do a little more damage. You won't be using it to really do damage since it's not that strong in the first place. The Constellation increases the pressed or the tap by 3.3% damage, and when you're holding the elemental skill, every 0.5 seconds it will increase the damage by 3.3%. It's not that much of an increase if you think about it, but it's better than nothing. Her Constellation 4 is pretty nice. She recovers 1.2 energy every time she swirls, and this can occur every 2 seconds. You'll be seeing a lot of this when you're holding her E and rolling around. Her Constellation 6 is also very good. This makes her Elemental Burst scale with Elemental Mastery. So every point of Elemental Mastery you have, it will increase the damage of her burst by 0.2% attack, up to a maximum of 400%, and it also increases the healing done. If we look back at her Elemental Burst, we see that it normally scales off attack, where the more attack you have, the more damage it will do and the more HP it will heal. But with Constellation 6, it will scale off Elemental Mastery as well, so you can build pure Elemental Mastery on her, which is what she wants. Speaking of Elemental Masteries and stats, let's just go straight to artifacts. Her best set is going to be 4-piece Vanilla set to help you debuff the enemies. For stats, you will want Elemental Mastery and Energy Recharge. Because her Elemental Burst costs 80 energy, you will need some energy recharge on some sets either as main stat or substat to get enough to keep the burst going. And Elemental Mastery will be her best offensive stat since she'll do most of her damage by swirling. So for Sans, you want either Elemental Mastery or Energy Recharge. For her helmet, you should go with Elemental Mastery since it will increase her overall damage the most. You can go with a crit rate or crit damage helmet if you don't have other choices, or Energy Recharge. It's really up to you. Depending on your weapon, you might actually want crit rate. That's because of the Favonius Greatsword. This makes it so every time she crits, she has a chance to regenerate energy particles. Since we're on this page now, let's talk about weapons. She has a variety of weapons she can use, and it depends on what your artifacts are. If your artifacts have a lot of Elemental Mastery and you need Energy Recharge, then go with the Favonius Greatsword or the Sacrificial Greatsword. If you have a lot of crit, the Favonius is actually pretty good since it will generate energy particles for your entire team. If you have plenty of energy recharge already, then you can go with Elemental Mastery weapons such as the Rain Slasher or the Blood Tainted Greatsword. The funny fact is the Blood Tainted Greatsword actually gives you more Elemental Mastery than the Rain Slasher, but the Rain Slasher gives you a higher base attack. So it's really up to you on which one to pick. You could kind of go with the one that benefits your team's elemental damage. It doesn't make that much of a difference, but it can help. If you somehow have spare 5-star claymores, then go ahead and give them to her. She works really well with Wolf's Greystone because the attack increase will help her elemental burst's damage and healing, and then you can also use the Skyward Pride to help with energy recharge. Her team comps are pretty simple too. Fit her on any team that has an Anemo Flex slot. She can debuff enemies with the 4-piece Vanilla set and heal your team at the same time. She is also one of the best characters to use on an exploration team thanks to her roll speed and passive. And that's pretty much it for my quick Sayu guide. I hope these tricks and tips help you out, and she is very fun to play, so I recommend trying her out if you can. If you are trying to save Primos for the next banner, then you can hold off on rolling for Sayu and wait for her rerun since she will definitely come back again later. Anyway, that's all for now. Join the Discord if you are interested, and as always, have fun out there, traveler.